Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Nightmare Road. All your source of fun and just happiness from the world. I am one of your hosts, Decon, here with a very extravagant looking.
SOS. Extravagant in my plaid. It's so cold up here today.
It's
Yeah.
freezing.
hmm
So disclaimer, this show is very dark. So if you guys have a very weak stomach, why don't you go listen to Baby Shark and just lock yourself in a closet or something. So what do you got for us
That's
today?
probably a good idea. Um Although this one isn't gory tonight. This one's kind of fascinating. It's not death and murder. This one is just dark, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about the Houska Castle, and um I was really interested because of the Dude and Bro show. They're always talking about the portals to hell.
Portal
So
to
I
hell,
googled
bro.
portals to hell. I googled it one day and this came up. So I'm like, okay, let's talk about it.
Good. Let me guess. Wait, I haven't seen that episode, but I'm going to guess of what happened. Okay, are you ready? So Zach went, "Hey, bro, I'm being affected right now. Something's affecting me right now, bro." And the other guy goes, "Dude, no way. Yeah, bro. Yeah, I'm being affected right now, and I don't know what to do. My affliction shirt is like getting tighter," and that's what happened, right?
I, I I would imagine so. I don't know if they've actually gone here. I bet they did have because they have a huge budget. But
They
I
do
don't know.
know.
I am gonna share my screen so y'all can see
I'm
what this
scared already.
castle looks like. So this is the castle, and it is actually set in it's in the Czech Republic, and it was built in 1253. And there's some really fascinating details about the castle. It had no fortifications, it had no kitchen, it had
Huh.
no windows, there was no water source. It was not a royal residence, which most castles are or were. And it was not close to any kind of road or path. And it all the windows in it were fake. So it looked like it had windows, but they were bricked off. Now you can
Whoa.
see in this photo there are windows because it's being renovated and there's a family living here now.
Yeah, I was gonna say it kind of looks like one of those Section 8 housing apartments. That
Yeah, the
yeah.
ones I see. Yeah, New Orleans. Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, you go out
Um,
there and somebody gives you meth.
right. So it's oh God, 29 miles north of Prague. Um, so it's considered predominantly Gothic, but and there's actually like a knight's drawing room, and there's chambers with some Gothic pictures, and it's it's pretty cool. I would like to go. I'm like, if I'm ever there, I would like to go. But the thing, so the legend has it is that it was built over this gateway to hell. That there was a hole so deep that the locals would like chuck rocks and stuff down it. This like fissure opened up in the limestone, and it's so deep it's considered bottomless. Like they so they built this castle around it with the fake windows, and um to keep things in, not to keep people
Whoa.
out. Yeah. So what they did was like locals would chuck rocks and sticks and stuff down it, probably each other, down into this
Yes, I was
fissure,
gonna
and
say. Listen in.
ah!
Yeah.
And they never could find the bottom. They could never hear the bottom. They never heard water. It's not like it was like it just never there was they couldn't figure this thing out. There's also a lot of hauntings around the castle and within the castle. So there's a story, I don't know if it's true because how do you fact check this? That when they built this castle, that they lowered they had like prisoners helping to build this castle at the time. And again, this is 1253. So this is, long time ago. And they decided let's we will give the freedom to any prisoner who will allow us to lower them
Lower.
on a
Yeah.
rope into this hole. And so, this guy's going, I'll do it. So he stands up, they tie a rope to him, they lower him down, and within a few feet he starts screaming. And he starts screaming and begging for them to pull him up, and they do, and they said that it looked like he had aged 30 years and his hair had gone completely white, like in that amount of time.
Whoa.
So he died within a few days after being lowered into that hole. Could that have been the effect of maybe gases? Maybe. Who knows?
It's sounding like have you ever heard of the case of something called Mel's Hole in the United States? Like similar, there was like a hole that seemed to be bottomless, and this guy started like experimenting by like throw. Only this was in the United States, so he wasn't throwing like rocks or anything. He was throwing like refrigerators, and he was like throwing stoves, and he was throwing all kinds of things. And then at some point, he lowered a goat or a sheep tied to a rope, and then he took it. He couldn't find the bottom of it. So he like did like the fishing line, and he tied it to a rock or something, and he threw it, and the fishing line kept going. It was like 800 feet, and then he tied it, and he kept tying it, and no bottom. So, anyways, so he brought this animal up, and when he brought the animal up, it looked like it had aged, and then it was a couple of days later it died. It could be the same effect, maybe a portal to hell, or it might just
Portal
be
to hell.
yeah, or the gases in
Well, and
the
that's what I'm wondering, is that what kind of gases are down in this, because you don't know what it's connected to. Now, I don't know, and would be really interesting to see if there are. I don't know. I should have looked this up. It just crossed my mind. Are there any like volcanic features in this area? I don't know. So
Hmm.
could this have been like a volcanic vent? Or, we have that kind of stuff in Yellowstone, right? All the geysers.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of stuff. So there's all kinds of gases. So, I don't know. That would be
And
really fascinating to find out.
you know what's interesting is who decided it was a portal to hell? Like unless because you know the story of the oracle in Greek history when the oracle was a seer and they had placed like an altar because there was a fissure in the earth and like all kinds of gases would emerge from it, and they thought these were like the way that the spirit world was communicating, like through the gods. So then
Oh,
they would sit this old lady who was the seer, and she would like inhale all these things, and then she said she would see like spirits coming in and out of her head, and
yeah, I
then she
bet
would
she
like tell
did.
them the fortune. I mean, she was hallucinating.
I,
Or but what makes it a portal to hell? Not only could it be like these people are just really
well,
tired. Or they maybe some of that gas escaped and they started seeing like the entities or all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean?
it, yeah, they could be. I mean, it was the local towns folk around there, the villagers or the people that lived around this castle in the mountains, that when the castle was built, and still to this day, I was just looking at TripAdvisor to see what people say about going to the Houska
Yeah.
Castle, because it's pretty interesting, like, I critique places that I go on TripAdvisor so people are aware. And it's usually pretty good. Usually you're like, God, you're going to have a great time if you go to this cave, or you're going to have, but
Yeah.
so I wanted to know what people had to say. And people say still to this day, they will hear scratching
Whoa.
in the castle. And the villagers said that they hear shrieking and howling in the woods all around the castle at night. That doesn't make any
Whoa.
sense. Like, it's
Yeah.
not an animal sound. It's like a human or a kind of a human sound, but like a,
Yeah.
like you would think something demonic would sound like this
Yeah.
terrible sound. Um, it's interesting that it was not built as a residence, because almost every castle, if you look back in history, was built as a residence. There's one website that I found that said it was built as the administration offices for the Bohemian ruler Ottokar II of Bohemia. There's no other website that substantiates this. But then again, this was built in 1253.
We gotta send Alex Jones in there to go
So
investigate.
people believe that the locals believe that the castle was built around this hole, and that there was no windows built in the castle. Remember that. And that's really interesting. And there was
Yeah.
no fortifications. There were no gun turrets pointing out. There were no, because castles are usually built to protect the monarch, right? So,
Yeah.
or the lord or somebody. And they have like old gun turret holes that you can see. They have fortifications. They have a way to fight. Right? There was nothing like that, and there were no windows. They looked like they had windows, but there were no windows. And I'm going to find a picture as we're talking of the interior of the castle so that you can see. Like I said, now the castle has windows because there's a family who they're restoring it. But
Yeah. They're gonna regret that.
yeah. So there's another interesting part of the history of this castle that is pretty dark. And that is that the Nazis
Nazis.
took control of the castle, and they were really into the occult. Remember, I mean,
Yeah.
really into
Vril.
the occult, right?
Yeah.
In the
The
dark part
Vril
of the occult.
Society. Yeah.
Well, apparently, all of the books and manuscripts and everything that they had, and it was it Himmler,
Yes.
Henrik Himmler, yeah, the SS leader. So he rounded up all of their occult manuscripts and books, and they took them to this castle, and that's where they kept them. And so they were
Huh.
found after the war.
Whoa.
So this is the castle that you see on the screen now. This is the way it looks, and it was built allegedly. I mean, you're just seeing the very top part of the castle, but
Yeah.
on the
That
lower
that
side,
definitely looks
I
designed to keep something in. Even the way that
yeah,
the
but
roof is just sloped inward, it's like, ooh.
I know it's very odd. And then I'm going to find the picture of um the hole. So it's been bricked over. I think now it's been bricked over. So I'm going to show it to you now.
It's been bricked over?
I think it's been bricked over, or it's got plexiglass over it or something. Like
Oh.
they've tried to. Yeah, so there's the hole.
Whoa, that is crazy looking.
It's pretty freaking weird, isn't it? It looks dug to me. It looks hand dug,
Well,
doesn't it? I mean, it.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like that looks like that is not a natural occurring.
I,
That is.
it's creepy. It's creepy.
What?
I'm
What
gonna,
is
yeah.
that? Is there light that
Oh, you want me
that
to go
comes
back?
out of it?
I think they've got it lit, or they had it lit during this picture, and I'm gonna
Oh,
find
okay.
another. Yeah, yeah. There's a few pictures out on these travel websites now that you can see, and then I'm going to show you the interior of the courtyard now. Remember, they've added these windows so that you can, um, because there's a family living there now, and they do tours, so it's owned by a particular family. So since the castle was not built as a residence, and because there's this hole, I was kind of looking at, well, who did this, like, what is the history of this land? And archaeological evidence shows that the Celtic tribes inhabited the land Houska, and Houska means bread or roll, which I thought was
Yeah.
interesting. So the Celts inhabited the land for a long time, and then the Slavic tribes migrated to the area, and it became Czechia, and it as early as the sixth century CE. And then, I don't know if they killed the Celts or pushed the Celts out, but some of
I think
the
that I think that by that time the Celts had moved on.
yeah, maybe. Um, um, there's some evidence to suggest that there was a Swedish mercenary and a practitioner of black magic named Oronto who inhabited the castle in the 1600s, but I can't find anything about him in the when I was researching. He allegedly toiled on experiments to find an elixir for eternal life and in his lab, and he terrified the villagers. And the villagers finally assassinated him for blasphemy. And also, apparently, the SS was doing naughty things, very terrible things to the villagers and killing a lot of the villagers in the area. So that makes sense too.
I wonder if that's where the shrieking sounds and all that stuff comes from.
Allegedly, there was a lot of skeletons found within the walls of the castle and SS uniforms. So there was also probably murders happening within the SS of their own people because they weren't the nicest guys. So all you have to do is point
Yeah,
a finger to
there was
somebody
a
and say you weren't being loyal.
yeah, there's a pecking order, especially if they followed the Vril religion, which in the this is their belief, okay? Um, they believe that the Vril society that they were communicating. Whenever I speak German or whenever I say German words, I always want to be angry when I say it. Like, like if you were to meet like the nicest like German guy and he's like, "Hello, what is your name? My name is Van," and just. But anyways, so so um so in the Vril religion, they believe that they were communicating with uh, extra dimensional extraterrestrials. And in order for you to open up the gates for them to talk to you, they would need a blood sacrifice. So remember that in the SS Waffen, there was a pecking order. So I would imagine if you were the lowest ranking person, all of a sudden you became the sacrifice. So that would make sense to me that there was skeletons and all kinds of stuff.
Mm-mm-mm. That's mm-mm. So here's I'm going to show you there's some murals inside the castle, and I think these are I don't know what time frame these were painted. They're really pretty.
Can,
They're very
is there a
striking.
way to do that? Looks like Ozzy Osbourne's house. Is there a way for you to zoom in?
Let me see if I can. This almost looks like a devil figure though. Look at that. Do you see that at the bottom of the screen here?
Yeah, I see that. It looks like, is that an animal
It
they're
looks
parting?
well over here is a deer, but look at
Y-
this guy. He's
Well,
he's horned.
yeah, I see that. I wonder if, see, that's
That's
what
interesting.
yeah, what it looks
Nope.
like to me, and I'm no, okay, so there was a belief that there was a spirit of the wilderness called Azazel, an old, you can read about it in the Old Testament, like that was like the scapegoat. That term scapegoat comes from that. So they
Oh,
would
really?
sacrifice, and yeah, was from they would sacrifice an animal for their sins, and then they would let the other one go, and they would wound it, and then let it go to be devoured by the demon of the wilderness, Azazel, or Azazel, depending on if you're speaking Yiddish or Hebrew. But anyways,
Oh, okay.
so so
Okay.
so there was a belief system that whenever there was wilderness and there was like um, negative, like anything, that it was probably an evil spirit of the wilderness. So they were probably sacrificing something, and then that demon thing was just waiting for its for its meal, I guess. So that's
Creepy
what it
as
looks like.
hell. I'm
Yeah, that's what.
That's creepy. Well, no. Yeah. I mean, that's creepy.
Oh, that
Um
is so dark.
It is.
And and
Let's see.
was that
And
a
I'm going to
forest
show you.
that was a
There
forest,
is a
right? Okay.
forest. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
wonder
It's
if
very, very heavily wooded there.
yeah, so I wonder if that's what the screaming were, and that's probably what they were. They've probably been hearing that for thousands of years, so they're probably sacrificing something for whatever's screaming out there to leave them alone.
So if you notice, there are windows in the castle now, but look at the
Yeah,
old windows. They faced inside. Like they weren't really windows. They looked like
yeah,
windows on the outside, but they weren't. And I
yeah. It
thought
looks
that
like
was
they
really
were.
interesting because
It looks like they were painted to kind of reflect what would you would see outside.
yeah, I don't it's hard. Yeah, actually there's clouds and whatnot on one of them.
Yeah,
See if I can. Yeah, there's old. Yeah, actually, I hadn't even noticed that before. There are old murals everywhere. Look at those murals.
yeah, and they look
That's
Roman Catholic.
They do, don't they?
Yeah,
Yep. That isn't that is supposed to be Christ right there and
yeah.
the
The Roman
Virgin.
Catholics are the
Yeah.
ones that put the round halo around everybody.
Yeah, yeah. And then but look over here in the window. It looks like there could have been a scene here, like a river and some clouds and stuff. It's pretty interesting. I don't know. I hadn't noticed that before when I was looking at the photos. I just thought it was just like mold or something. I don't know what I was thinking, but anyway,
Come on,
um
come on, SOS.
I don't know. I didn't blow up the picture. I'm flipping through pictures as fast as I can to look at this. I thought
Is
yeah, cuz
is that
so
sage? That looks like bundles of sage. You see that? You see
um
that on those fake windows?
it looks like wheat to me.
Like, can you zoom in?
It looks like harvested wheat.
Oh, that
It's
little
not
one
going to
looks
clearly.
like okay. That little one, I thought it looked like sagebrush when they, tie it up
Oh yeah, no.
to
Hmm. I
to
think
tie
this is wheat.
to sell to the hippies on the beach.
Maybe. I mean, that's how you make your money, right? You scare the hell out of your tourists, and then you give them sage, and
Yeah, you give them
you
sage.
sell them
That's what I
sage on the
do.
way out.
I
I
I
mean,
pull a
so
gun.
now
I
they
pull
do
a gun on them,
weddings
then
in
I
the
sell them.
castle. They do weddings, and they have like these romantic getaways there, and I just can't picture knowing what the SS was capable of doing,
Oh, I
and
just need a.
knowing that there's this big hole there, and knowing that so some of the hauntings that to this day people say that cars won't start if it's parked really close to the castle, like they have,
Whoa.
it creates electronic issues with cars. um the howling screams that are still heard at night, like this is not just legend, this is still going on.
Yeah.
um a black headless horse is seen galloping through the woods. That's weird to me.
It's it's not to me because um like remember the legends of the hellhounds. I've talked about this where
The
you have
hellhounds,
like
yeah, but I've never heard of a hell horse.
yeah, but when some in some of the stories, I mean, they have spoken how this entity that's like a dog is able to change its height, and a lot of the times it would become the size of a horse. Like for example, in El Salvador in Central America, they have el cadejo, and they say that he turns to the size of a horse sometimes. And if like how does that go? He turns to the size of a horse, and if it's a holy week, in order for it to prevent prayers to be like cast on it, sometimes it appears as a giant headless dog.
So, well, so like what are you talking, shapeshifter kind of thing?
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that if all these cultures have almost the same story, I don't find that to be a coincidence. So the headless horse, like it doesn't surprise me, because you see that also with like the
Hmm.
giant headless dog in Central America. Like sometimes he'll appear without a head to so that it wouldn't be
Yeah.
blessed or something.
Yeah, well, that's pretty interesting. I one of the other things that people do see a woman in an old dress like walking around the castle grounds at night. Um I the thing that's the most curious to me is there are a few things about how the castle was built that had no water source, no kitchen. It was miles from anything. Like, why would you build it there? They said there was just kind of like swamp, murky land around it. It didn't. It didn't. Why was it built there? What? But then come back to present day, and you have electrical issues with cars. Why? I mean, what's going on
What?
there? That's
Yeah. What is going? That's dark. And the people that held weddings there, um, I wonder how many of those people like put a life insurance on this person they're
I
marrying.
don't know. I don't know.
Because that's dark stuff.
I
Like, how
think
would you want? You're gonna start your journey in like this romantic, a ceremony, and take them to like one of the darkest places. It's like, what are you doing?
well, there are weirdos like me out there in the world that would do like,
You wouldn't
get
do
married in a
that.
black dress or do something like that just because,
Yeah,
you don't
but
want
you're
to be
not
the,
gonna go to that
as I'm in my
castle.
plaid, right? Total hick here, but still, that
Yeah,
goth part of me wants to do something totally not the norm. So
yeah, you are
I
weird.
I don't know. I don't I don't know if I'd want to get married there though. That the fact it the whole history, if I could carve out the SS and say I didn't know that, then yes, the dark part of it I'd like it. The fact that the Nazis were there and they were torturing people and probably torturing each other, and they found skeletal remains in SS uniforms, that it's not the skeletons, it's the fact that it was the SS. That really bothers me.
Oh, that doesn't
Really
bother me
bothers
at
me.
all. I,
Oh,
I hope there's a Nazi something in this house. Anyways, um, yeah,
so on TripAdvisor, one gal said she was pretty much okay, even though the castle was really spooky until she got into the room full of dolls. And I'm like, that's it. I'm out. So, and you're gonna, oh
oh,
my God, I hate that thing. Oh my God. And it looks
it's
like
got
that chick
real.
off of, it's the Redrum girl. It's the, Stephen King, the you know,
Oh, oh,
the
Car-
twins, the
oh
twin
yeah,
girls in the
yeah,
hallway.
yeah.
Yeah, no, what's how she's
She's
dressed.
Melissa. She's beautiful. Don't insult Melissa.
No, she's not. She's
Look,
hideous. Yeah, I have a skeleton downstairs for Fred, or a dead Uncle Fred
yeah.
for the paranormal group, and he's downstairs, and he looks better than that. Sorry.
Oh, how dare you? Now she's gonna go find you and visit you. Anyways, oh,
Do you mail that thing to
uh,
me? I'm gonna be so mad at you, but I'm telling you.
um,
So anyway, on TripAdvisor, I would recommend maybe checking it out if you decide
don't
you're
do
going to
it.
go. Um, but the room full of dolls would bother me. But a lot of people did say that they had experiences while they were there. They had, they said it was pretty spooky. Even though daytime, I mean, it looks fine. I'll show you a picture of it during. It looks like any tourist trap. Um, it,
I
but it's not. It's a very
Why?
small image, so bear with me. I mean, this is the
Oh,
tourist, you
something
know.
so probably because we know the history behind it, but there's something so off-putting by that. That does not look welcoming. Also
I think
because
it's the could be the gothic style too, just
I don't see, and the
you don't
thing
think
is
so?
that no, that thing looked like it was designed because that's what it was, to keep things in. It wasn't meant to keep anything, out.
Yeah,
But
remember
it,
all of those windows are new.
those,
They
yeah,
were
they
fake.
weren't there.
They weren't real.
Yeah, and then that's what's crazy is it's a prison for demons.
Exactly. Like, why would you do that? Because even if
Why?
you had a castle to protect somebody, you want to see out.
Exactly. Well, you have to see out because if you can't
I
see what's
mean,
out there, you don't know if they're climbing the walls.
right. And there's this like half human, half frog thing. I forgot to mention that. So some of the people say they see this thing coming out of the castle and it's like half human, half frog. And I don't
Oh,
know if it means if it's like leaping like a frog or it's like got froggy legs or what, but it's like
it's
this bullfrog human creature thing. And they think it's something that comes out of the pit, the
yeah.
hole.
Well, okay. So I don't know if the link is if it's actually linked to this, but there was a okay. Sorry, I'm getting feedback here. It's kind of weird. Anyways, so there was a demon that had like the head of a frog and the body of a human. And when it would speak, they say it sounded like thunder, and this thing would bring diseases and famine into the land. So it was it was first spoken about in sorry, now I'm kind of going through the encyclopedia in my head. Um Uh, Jeez. Octavius. Octavius talked about the Caesar, who was later Augustus, but Octavius talked about how there were these like magicians, and these magicians basically told him that if he wore certain charms, that this bad entity that would bring diseases and famine into the land would stay away, and it would come out from the depths of hell, and it when it would speak it sounded like thunder. And then there was a book
Mm.
that was written. It was called Solomon's Key that came later. And in Solomon's Key, they talk about different demonic entities, and on there they have the bringer of pestilence and diseases, which was a demon with the head of a frog.
Mm. Oh,
So
well, that's
yeah,
interesting. Yeah, I don't. Yeah. Well, anyway, I doubt that I'll ever be there. But if I'm ever there, I'm gonna go see the castle because it's pretty fascinating to me. Um, this picture is definitely makes it look even darker than it normally is. But yeah.
it has such a dark history, and I wonder if because people that they that they're into the dark forces and to all that kind of stuff, it's almost like dark energy like is almost like a magnet to them. So I wonder if these Nazis practicing this dark sorcery, if they were drawn into the castle or if they heard
Oh.
stories from the people, you know, but
Yeah,
it's
that's actually a really good question. It's like what came first? Did they hear about it or were they drawn to it? I definitely think places that have very dark history, they're a magnet.
yeah,
So,
and that's why when you see a very negative person and like this person is super negative, usually bad stuff happens around them. And it's probably because they live their life just being drawn towards like negativity. So you being around them, they probably can't see it. They probably feel like the victim. But if you're around this person, not only do you feel dark, but you start realizing that a lot of misfortune happens around this person. You know, and then you're like,
yeah.
okay, is it because this person is manifesting it? See, now I'm I'm a I'm a skeptic, folks, but you do see those kind of people. Is that it's like, okay, are these people manifesting the misfortune, or are they just being drawn by it and they can't help but being around it? Does
Well,
that
so
make any
there's a
sense?
theory about there's a theory about reincarnation about how you're constantly working past through past lives issues in this life, the current life that you're in, like you're constantly working. So um like I don't I do believe that what you believe you manifest. I do believe that, but I also believe that because I am a huge believer in reincarnation, because of my work with the dead, right? I talk to them and what they tell me. So I I do believe that there's some truth to working through. So if you have a bunch of bad luck in this life, it could be that you're having those things are put in your path so that you have to work through those issues.
Hmm.
I think anyway.
That's like the belief in Hinduism and the giant pool. How
Well,
you eventually you want to be in that pool, but you can't be there if you have all this garbage with you. So you keep going back and you keep going. You know, it's like
Yeah.
that saying how people believe in life, and in order for them to become better, they have to, acquire this and acquire that. When in the end, you need to understand that when you learn to let go is when you begin to kind of become better as a person. Welcome to philosophy,
It's
guys,
taken
and I
me
am.
it's taken me a long time to get to that point. I'm not completely there yet, but yeah, I believe that I used to worry myself sick, right? And so I am learning to let things go and
Let it go.
go and be more like my namesake, which I won't say on the podcast, but you know what it is, and be more like my
Yeah,
namesake because it's true. We will worry ourselves to death. So anyway, when you go back to these places, these really infamous places that are really really dark, I always protect myself before I go. I protect myself, I ground myself, I make sure, because I am drawn to them. I want to feel it, I want to experience it, I want to see what people are feeling and experiencing. I go to a lot of dark places because I want to, am I am I getting the same vibes? You know darn well if you walk into a building where murders happen or a fight has happened,
hmm
even though the fight's not in front of you and even though everything's calm, when you walk in you feel that
you
energy.
feel the tension almost like it's heavy,
Yep.
and you can walk into a place where somebody's been fighting, and then everybody's acting normal, and you're like, oh, okay, what happened?
What just went on? And it
Yeah.
might not have been just now. Maybe it was 10 years ago.
Well,
I think
that's what
that
I was.
energy
That's what I was gonna say.
stays.
It's like, well, okay, so it could be like 30 minutes ago, so and so pushed someone, and now they're gone. We're all trying to, and but you still feel that tension, or you get to a place and you're like, all right, what's happening here? Well, so and so strangled somebody to death here, but that's not the point. That's besides the point. So yeah,
Right.
it's some of those places just have a weight, with them. Like you go to a place and you're like, oh man. And if you're again, I'm a skeptic, but if you're a person
You're a
that is
skeptic.
not,
You're a skeptic, but you've told me things. You've told me things. And it's like, how can you be a skeptic? I'm not going to say what you've said, but how can you be a skeptic? Oh my
um,
God.
but then there's that there's that person that maybe isn't, you know, doesn't have like the shields up or doesn't have like that strength, and they can go to a place and that can actually affect them for the rest of their lives. You know,
Yes. That's why we get so many calls. We'll have calls about things going on, and it's like, well, what did you do? Well, we were playing with this or we were doing that. And I'm like, well, you know, be careful. Be careful when you're playing with stuff. And I don't consider it the occult. I'm just saying be careful when you play with stuff you don't understand. This castle, to me, I mean, I would be protected and grounded. I would go in, but I still want to experience it, but I know how to protect myself on the way out, you know?
yeah. I mean, when like what was that house that the Sally house? Remember that house that you know what I'm talking about? There was a there was a house in what state was it? But anyway, so Zach Baggins bought it, and
Oh, and he ended up burning it down.
yeah, and he had the house destroyed because, well, it wasn't his, saying it was people
No, he
that
bought.
he bought the house, and I think he wanted to turn it into a museum of some sort, and he brought people, and a lot of people are like, yeah, this is not the right place. You need to.
He actually said he had a physical issue after he bought the house and he was in there for so long. It affected his eyesight. And this is what he
Yeah.
says. He says it affected his eyesight and he has now a pretty rare eye condition that's happened to him. That's how he was physically attacked through the
It's
house
probably
and
all
he
that
did burn it down. He hired the
it,
fire department I think to burn it down.
to burn it down. I was gonna say it's probably all that hair gel kind of leaked on the side. But
Anyway.
but I heard from it could be the same story, but I heard from somebody that he works with that's kind of like his, well, he has a group of them, but it's like his spiritual people. And maybe it was that he was losing his sight, and he's like, "What can I do, bro?" And they're like, "Destroy this place," because if you look, and I'm not, I don't know him. I'm not, I don't, I'm not close to him or anything like that. But if you have an opportunity, because he would have made a lot of money if he would have turned that into some kind of attraction, haunted attraction. And I think that person's like, dude, do you want people to go blind? Do you want people to become really sick? Because even people that went there for that, and for an hour, I'm gonna go look at the Sally house, and they would walk to the basement and they would do all these kind of things. Those people had nightmares for months and they couldn't
Mm-hmm.
sleep, and something followed
Mm-hmm.
them home. So, anyways, now could you imagine a castle that was built, and this is just my speculation, a castle that was built to keep these evil entities that were in that hole in? Could you imagine somebody going
Right.
in there, you know?
Well, I don't yeah, so I mean it's fascinating to me. Why would you build a castle the way they built it if it wasn't to keep something in? But the energy around that would be, I think, if you were sensitive at all to anything, like if you were a medium or an empath, particularly if you're an empath, if you were psychic, if you have any of these gifts, right? Clairaudience, any of the gifts, and you walked into a place like that, it could be life changing if you were not protected.
Yeah, it'd be like walking into like a heavy metal concert, not knowing there was a heavy metal concert going on, you know?
It would be hard. It would be you might spend years trying to get rid of whatever energy, because you never know what's going to attach themselves to you,
Who's,
or
yeah.
you drag home that stuff. It can happen. I've had it happen to investigators because they don't know how to protect themselves. Not everything we
Um,
run into is human.
yeah, and
Most of it
see now,
is.
now I have a very quick story that I can that I
Oh,
can tell
I love
before
your
we close out the
stories.
show. Okay, so in a place called Ilopango in El Salvador, there was a house that was utilized by witches, and these witches would kids would go missing, pets would go missing, and these witches were trying to levitate it from what I hear, and they would basically scrape the fat off of babies and then cook it to try to make. So I had a cousin who went to one of these the house is abandoned, by the way. Went to one of these houses, and he ended up going to the house, and he was like very like, oh, whatever, I don't, whatever it was. So he went into this house and he spent the night there, and the next day he went home and said that he had murderous thoughts towards his wife and his stepson. He says that he just had these thoughts of like, wanting to like do horrible things to them. So this went on. He ignored it, and then at one point he snapped and nearly like didn't like put his hands on it, but was like really close to actually reaching out and like grabbing his stepson. And until he had to go to somebody and he had to be cleansed, and they cleansed them, and they basically, and because of the culture of that place, he was known as the idiot for a long time. He couldn't live that down because he went to a place where he didn't know, what he was getting into. He had no idea what was going. Anyone in there, as a skeptic, and basically like there's nothing here. And if you know the culture over there, you kind of stay away from those kind of things. So he ended up getting cleansed. Um, he wasn't cleansed by a Catholic priest. Otherwise, that would have ended differently. Then he would have been like had a different story. Anyways, so he ended up getting he ended up getting
Oh
cleansed
my
by
God.
he ended up getting cleansed by this woman that like that's what she does. So she ended up cleansing him multiple times, and then he was fine. And he was saying that when you first walk into the house, and when you first walk into the house, it was almost like, and I use this analogy a lot because I got it from him. But when you're in a concert and you're by the speaker and you can feel the vibration of the sound hitting you, he says that's what you feel when you were going into that house. You felt the vibration hitting you, and he just took it as I'm just nervous, or I'm just letting my brain, do these kind of things to me. So he went, he spent the night, and that's it. So it was almost like the dark energy that was in that home temporarily like went into him, and he went home next day and then had these very murderous thoughts. And he is a super nice guy. You know, he's you can't look at him and be like, oh, this guy's
No,
psychotic. He
that makes you wonder, somebody that nice, somebody who's not psychotic, are all do all did he have those thoughts and suppress them his whole life and the house brought him out, or did the house put the thoughts into his head? I mean, do we all I listen to podcasts, true crime stuff all day long while I'm at work. I mean, I am a junkie, right?
that explains a
Some
lot.
people who commit, yeah, I'm creepy. So some people that commit murders is like, they're the nicest guy. How could this happen? So do all of us have that little seed in there and it just takes something to bring it out? Or do we get into a place like that and it plants it? I don't know. Chicken and egg, right? I don't know.
Well, it like he never had those thoughts ever again, but probably it was somebody. I mean, maybe also because he was so skeptical about the situation. He went into this house, and maybe whatever was in that house is like, look, we found a weak person, somebody that
Mm-hmm.
we can very easily latch onto. You know, I don't know. So that's one of my stories. I should start telling those stories more often. I have so many.
You really should tell those stories more often, and I really want to go there, that part of the world, because you tell the most fascinating stories. I don't have anything like that, even in my paranormal stuff, to say something like that. I do. We get involved with clients all the time that things are going on in their house, and it's like the more I quiz them, the more I can determine it's them or it's the building. I and there's I have a standard set of interview questions that I have. I have to say that out of every 100 calls, I might take 3 investigations because I deduce that they're causing the problem and they're not going to stop and they don't really want the help. They just want somebody to come in.
Yeah, they want something to happen in their life. So yeah, you should visit that part of the world. I'll give you some spots you can go.
Oh my God, I really want to because everything you talk about is so cool. I really want to go. But probably there more than the Houska Castle. But the Houska Castle's on the list now, so I want to go.
I'll take you to the cave of Francisca Pancha, the most feared witch in history, that the government has a
Ah,
bounty on her head.
would be so cool.
And then we
Yes.
go into that cave and we never re-emerge because those are the stories that you go into her cave and you never come out. So, anyways, we're gonna close out the show with that. So, um, yeah, I was your host, Decon, here with the very, very disturbed.
SOS.
And man, and today's episode was so what would you call it? Was that like emotionally dark? Is something that like if you like look it's so creepy. I mean, that's to me so that painting where these people are looks like they're splitting an animal and something was in the forest just waiting, to get his meal. Like you don't just draw that out of nowhere. You don't,
No, that to me was like the creepiest part of it all. I don't.
I'm gonna research that now. Like I want to look at the history uh, of of that painting. Like what was that? Why would you paint that? Like that's so creepy. Just emerging from the woods, waiting. And it looked like it was waiting, it was just standing there. As they were feeding it probably. Like, oh, we have a deal with this thing. He won't come after us. The the
They
frog demon.
sacrifice the animal for it.
Yep. So, anyways, guys, this was creepy. Um, remember, guys, to always look both ways, especially if you find yourself. Also, like and subscribe. Jeez, but if you find yourself on Nightmare Road.